Hey everyone, welcome back to another recap podcast from SNXweave, where we give quick weekly recaps of news and important updates from the previous week from the Spartan Council and core contributors, as well as discuss what the Grants Council and ambassadors are up to, so let's get started. V3 Core and Perps V3 are both on base early testnet, and the cross-chain election module audit feedback is being implemented, which means it could be ready in time for the coming election in December. Last week, the Spartan Council also had a discussion about V3 tokenomics, as Millie wanted to make good on the Council's promise to bring some resolution to this issue by the end of the epoch. Kane suggested a better discussion would be to get feedback on the experiments that have been proposed and if the Council feels that those experiments will deliver all of the information necessary to make a decision on tokenomics going forward. Gene voiced some concern about the USDC collateral experiment, but acknowledges that it seems to be a popular idea among users and the rest of the Council. The primary concern, which Millie also expressed, was how external collateral affects SNX token holders. Kane stressed that the point of these experiments is to find out if there's any demand at all for liquidity providers with other collateral willing to be counterparty for perps trading. Both outcomes, whether demand is high for USDC or ETH collateral or not, provide valuable data on how the protocol should proceed with its scaling roadmap. Adam also called out the importance of communicating that information very clearly to the community because many have jumped to conclusions about what Andromeda means for SNX collateral in the future. There are several upcoming SIPs related to tokenomics, and Matt will be writing a blog post on them collectively. Next, Millie wanted to get a temperature check from the Spartan Council on where everyone stands on ending inflation. Duck thinks if the buyback and burn can make the token deflationary without completely shutting off inflation, that leaves room to continue incentivizing desirable behavior. Kane thinks it's generally a moot point, but that there might be perceived value if inflation is completely turned off, since the current optics of the SNX token is that it's highly inflationary. Adam suggested directing some inflation towards V3 spot markets before cutting it off completely, which will bootstrap liquidity there while simultaneously demonstrating that it's not necessary for V2. Bert advocated for a more data-centric approach, calling out that it's unknown if there are any tangible consequences to cutting off inflation completely. Kayla brought up that inflation has decreased substantially over the past year, and the staking percentage has held at around 70%. Next up, there was a SIP presentation last week for SIP 349 to enable cross-chain reads on Synthetics V3 by integrating Wormhole's cross-chain query, CCQ. This SIP was presented by the Wormhole team, and if approved, Wormhole CCQ will be implemented, enabling proposals like SIP 312 for V3 cross-chain pool synthesis to unlock a multi-chain future for Synthetics V3. If there's a need to sync pool data across chains, this SIP will provide the infrastructure to make that possible. Any use case for this tool will be outlined in different SIPs, such as SIP 312 or future SIPs, proposing to link isolated deployments from different chains. Some Spartan Council members brought up challenges that bridges have had in the past, and asked for some more clarity on the updated security model. The Wormhole team responded saying, the Guardian set for Wormhole is comprised of the top 19 validator companies, and their primary function is data attestation. 2/3 of the Guardians must witness a transaction to achieve consensus. For cross-chain queries, the inverse happens. Guardians perform a call and discuss the results, which is then verified via 2/3 majority. All of the validators are completely doxed and have a reputational stake in verifying accurate information. Following previous exploits, an additional circuit breaker has been put in place to limit notional transaction volume that can be verified in a 24-hour period. A global accountant mechanism has also been added to check all debits against credits to verify that what is being distributed on another chain has been collected first. There have also been 20 audits, and all the security code is open source. Kane called attention to the fact that there are already outside dependencies that Synthetics relies on, like oracles, and thinks this is a useful piece of infrastructure that will be crucial in the future. Cav highlighted that the intention with this SIP was to separate the infrastructure from the specific feature that it will be used to implement. In Grants Council updates, the team had a few action items come out of last week's meeting. Doug will be looking into adding new tools for tools.synthetics.io, and 2 retroactive grants were proposed, one for the core contributors for helping with ambassadors voting, and one for Gelato Auto Mint. The team also discussed current pending grant requests and are waiting on technical input for one grant request. They are also brainstorming a watcher page staking fee calculator, and the site's account and P&L pages are almost ready. Lastly, in ambassador updates, the team discussed their Spartan space with Valio and Quenta, where they had over 60 people in attendance. They also went over their OP votes for the 8 recent ones that ended a few days ago. You can see how they voted on Optimism's proposal page. Optimism's retroactive public goods funding round 3 is currently open, so the ambassadors discussed projects that have been submitted and how to vote for them. There are currently 643 projects after making the cuts. Lastly, Gunboats and Kevin attended Blockchain Genesis Thailand Blockchain Week 2023, where they represented the Synthetics ambassadors. And that's it for today's updates. Be sure to check out our weekly recap blog post, share this podcast link, and let us know what you think and what you'd like to hear more about from SNXweave. Thanks for listening.